Alright, sad time, but a good time nonetheless. Clone Wars Adventures Volume 10, the final volume of these digest comics. This has got 4 stories here. The first is called Graduation Day by Chris Avellone, art by Stuart McKinney, and colors by Rhonda Pattison. And this is about the Agricorps. These are failed Padawans. They don't get masters. They go to the Agricorps to raise crops for starving worlds. The Agricorps is attacked by the Separatists, and these failed Padawans have a chance to redeem themselves and defend the Agricorps. That's pretty much it. It's a nice little story. Next is Thunder Road. This is by the Philippock brothers with colors by Pamela Rambo. And in it, Obi-Wan and Anakin have to go through this canyon in this like piece of junk. It's like this weird jalopy speeder that Anakin fixes up. And it's just wacky hijinks. I don't like this story. I think it's one of the Philippock brothers' worst. It made the cover, though. And there are 2 different covers because this is what the speeder looks like. That's the right color. There are a bunch of these that have red covers. I don't know what the deal is. Did they run out of blue ink? Was there a mess up and those are rare? And then they reprinted it with the blue? Like the turquoise? I don't know. Also, Anakin's hair is really blonde in this, and it throws me off. I don't know. Next, we got Chain of Command. Keonde Moody sends this Padawan on an important mission. And I use important mission in quotation marks. And there's a lesson to be had. This is by Jason Hall, art by Ethan Beavers, and colors by Dan Jackson. I didn't like this one. I think she's really annoying character. And that's the point. And I don't like that point. That's all I have to say about that. And last one's called Waiting. And this is by the Philippock brothers with colors by Tony Avina. And this is about an ARC trooper that's supposed to blow up a bridge, but these weird blue monkey aliens steal his stuff, and there's wacky hijinks ensues. Little kitty, but it's better than Thunder Road. I don't know. So basically, Volume 10 for me, and I thought this as a kid, was the weakest one of all of these. Graduation Day is probably the best story in here, and it's not that good. Chain of Command is terrible. It's a terrible story. Thunder Road is very mediocre, and Waiting is also mediocre, but slightly less mediocre than Thunder Road. I think these are 2 of the Philippock brothers' worst stories they ever wrote, and I really like the Philippock brothers. I think they did quite a good job overall, but those 2 are kind of meh. And also, the Chain of Command just sucks. It's so ham-fisted and dumb with its kid message. It's the one out of all these that feels the most like a kid comic. And this story didn't... This whole series, all 10 volumes, up until this point, they had their little jokes, like the C-3PO R2-D2 stories, of goofy hijinks for kids. You know, but you forgive it because, like, you have your adult stories. But that was just too kiddie. I don't know. The irony is the Chain of Command story, although it... No, not the Chain... The Graduation Day story, which has kids as the main characters, is probably the best written and most all ages of all this. The rest of this is very kiddie. I don't know. Didn't like it. Honestly, I'd probably give it a 3.7 out of 5. It's the weakest of this series. And there's probably the reason there wasn't a Volume 11. Although by this point, they were moving towards Adventures, which was more original trilogy, sort of. It was more of an original trilogy concept. Some of the stories happened right before A New Hope. Others happen between A New Hope and Empire. One happens during Empire, you know. And those were digest sized, but they would be one story through the whole digest comic. So, this is the end of these, like, Tales stories, which were better than Tales overall. I mean, think of only a handful of bad stories in these Clone Wars adventures. Like, I think I could count them on one hand. Like, there weren't that many bad stories. Pretty much most of them were really solid stories that were worth your time. And out of all these digest-sized comics, like, that Star Wars produced, these Clone Wars adventures are by far the best. Because I know they did another one called The Clone Wars, which is based on Dave Filoni's show as opposed to Ginny Tartakovsky's show. And some of those are terrible. But we'll get to those eventually. But for now, it's about all I have. Dang, this is like one of the first series we've officially finished on the channel. It's kind of wild to think about. I mean, this and Jedi Apprentice is we're getting to the end of that main series. It's kind of wild. I know there's been so many series that I've started and not finished on this channel. It's nice to have one that's completely done. I don't know, I just felt like sharing that. Anyway, have a good one.